Sometimes the most dangerous form of manipulation is the one that hides in plain sight. It doesn't come with raised voices or clear lies. It comes with subtle distortions, quiet contradictions, small shifts in reality that make you second-guess your memory, your emotions, even your sanity. And the most disturbing part is this: the person doing it might have no idea they're doing it. This is the psychology of people who gaslight and don't even know it. And once we begin to understand it, we uncover a haunting truth about human nature, about how fragile our grasp on reality can be, and how easily we can become both the manipulator and the manipulated. You are about to enter a psychological underworld, a space where perception is fluid, memory is unreliable, and the mind can betray itself. In this space, we challenge the assumption that gaslighting is always intentional. We explore the terrifying possibility that people can distort your reality while sincerely believing they are helping, clarifying, or even protecting you. We ask, what happens when someone becomes a gaslighter, not because they are cruel, but because they are unconscious? The answer will change the way you see yourself, your relationships, and the hidden power of belief. Let's start with a premise that is difficult but necessary. Most people do not see themselves as villains. Even those who hurt others, lie, or manipulate often believe they are doing what is right, or at least what is justified. This is especially true with people who gaslight unconsciously. They are not sitting in a room scheming to destroy your sense of self. They are reacting. They are protecting their own fragile egos, their own distorted memories, their own fear of being wrong or losing control. And in doing so, they create a version of reality that centers their needs and erases yours. Not out of hatred, but out of self-preservation. This is where we must turn to the roots of perception itself. Every one of us constructs our version of reality. It is not purely objective. It is shaped by our memories, our beliefs, our traumas, our needs. And when those needs are threatened, when someone challenges our version of events, when we feel exposed or embarrassed, the mind often responds not with honesty, but with distortion. We twist the facts. We reinterpret motives. We downplay our mistakes and amplify the wrongs done to us. This is not always conscious. It is often automatic. And that is the first step to becoming an unconscious gaslighter. The philosopher Immanuel Kant taught that we do not see the world as it is, we see it as we are. This means that our perception is always filtered through the lens of our own internal world. So if someone has unresolved guilt, they may rewrite a memory to minimize their role in the conflict. If someone is deeply afraid of abandonment, they may convince themselves that they never said what you clearly remember them saying, because admitting it would mean accepting responsibility and possibly facing rejection. In their inner world, they are not gaslighting you. They are simply protecting themselves from emotional collapse. But from your perspective, it feels like psychological warfare. Now pause and ask yourself this. Have you ever told a story about a conflict that made you look better than you actually behaved? Have you ever insisted that someone misunderstood you when deep down, you knew you were being unclear or passive-aggressive? Have you ever denied something you said, not because you were lying, but because you genuinely didn't remember it and couldn't imagine yourself saying it? If you have touched the edge of unconscious gaslighting. And this is where the real work begins, not in judging others, but in recognizing the seeds of this dynamic within ourselves.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
The person who gaslights without knowing it is often deeply invested in a specific self-image. They may see themselves as kind, honest, rational, or morally upright. And when reality threatens that image, when someone accuses them of being selfish, dismissive, or inconsistent, they experience a kind of psychological dissonance. They tell themselves, "That can't be true. I would never do that." And so they begin to rewrite reality not with malicious intent, but with emotional urgency. They say things like you're overreacting, or that's not what happened, or you're being too sensitive, not because they want to hurt you, but because they need to preserve their self-concept. But in doing so, they plant doubt. They make you question your own experience, and slowly, almost invisibly, they erode your trust in yourself. This is why gaslighting is not just a form of emotional abuse. It is a philosophical problem. It's about competing realities, clashing narratives, and the tension between memory and truth. And it raises a terrifying question. If two people remember the same event in completely different ways, who is right? Who gets to define what really happened? And what does that mean for the nature of truth itself? Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "There are no facts, only interpretations." While this statement is not meant to deny objective reality, it highlights the way our minds interpret the world in subjectively biased ways. When someone gaslights you without knowing it, they are not necessarily fabricating facts. They are giving you their interpretation, which has been filtered through their needs, fears, and unresolved emotions. And the danger is, they may be entirely convinced that their version is accurate. That sincerity makes it even harder to detect and even more damaging to endure. Let us now explore the psychological mechanisms that allow this to happen. One of the most powerful is cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort we feel when we hold two conflicting beliefs. When a person believes they are a good partner, but their behavior has clearly hurt someone, they experience dissonance. To resolve it, they often choose to deny or minimize the hurt rather than confront their own flaws. This is not always a choice made in awareness. It is often reflexive, automatic, and protective, but it still distorts reality, and it still leaves the other person feeling confused, unseen, or even crazy. Another mechanism is confirmation bias, the tendency to seek out information that supports our existing beliefs and ignore information that contradicts them. If someone believes you are always dramatic, they will interpret every emotional expression you show as proof of that belief. They will not see your pain. They will only see what confirms their narrative. Over time, they build a mental world where they are always rational and you are always unstable. And in that world, your truth has no place. So how do we protect ourselves from this? How do we maintain our sense of reality when someone close to us keeps distorting it, even unknowingly? The first step is internal clarity. You must know yourself. You must trust your memory, your feelings, your gut. This does not mean you are always right. It means you are allowed to have your own experience. When someone says, "That never happened," and you feel a tightening in your chest, a flicker of doubt in your heart, that is your intuition speaking. Do not silence it. Do not hand over your reality just because someone else insists theirs is more valid. The second step is emotional boundaries. When someone repeatedly denies your experience, you must learn to say, "That may be how you remember it, but this is how I experienced it." You are not trying to win an argument. You are not trying to prove them wrong. You are simply protecting your inner world. You are saying, "I will not let your version of events erase mine." This is not aggression. This is psychological self-defense. And it is essential if you want to preserve your mental sovereignty. The third step is radical honesty with others and with yourself. Ask yourself, have I ever unknowingly gaslighted someone? Have I ever clung to a story because it made me feel safe, even if it wasn't entirely true? Have I ever refused to hear someone else's pain because it threatened my ego? These are difficult questions, but they are the doorway to awakening. Because the truth is, we all have the capacity to gaslight. The question is not whether we've done it. The question is whether we are willing to recognize it, own it, and change. So now pause and reflect. What is the cost of being right all the time? What do we lose when we refuse to admit that our perception might be flawed? What relationships have we damaged not through cruelty, but through unconscious distortion? And what kind of person would we become if we chose truth over comfort, curiosity over certainty, presence over protection? At the core of this journey is one radical idea: that real connection requires us to surrender the need to be right. It asks us to be humble enough to say, maybe I don't remember that perfectly. Or maybe your feelings are valid even if they don't make sense to me. Or even maybe I hurt you and didn't realize it. These simple admissions have the power to transform relationships. They make space for healing, for trust, for truth. And they pull us out of the fog of unconscious gaslighting and into the light of awareness. But awareness is only the beginning. In part 2, we will go even deeper into the spiritual implications of truth distortion, the long-term psychological effects of being gaslit, the hidden trauma it creates, and the path to reclaiming reality. We will also explore how to transform unconscious gaslighting into conscious healing, both for yourself and the people you love. To continue this journey into the depths of unconscious gaslighting, we must now venture into the emotional aftermath it leaves behind. When someone gaslights us, even unintentionally, it does not simply confuse us, it fractures something fundamental inside of us: our relationship with reality. Over time, we begin to doubt our instincts. We silence our inner voice. We start asking ourselves questions like, am I too sensitive? Or maybe I did imagine that. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, we disconnect from our own truth. And this is the real damage: not just the loss of trust in others, but the erosion of trust in ourselves. When gaslighting is chronic, the victim starts to internalize the distortion. They begin to self-regulate in ways that suppress their authenticity. They may stop expressing their needs, because every time they do, they're told they're overreacting. They may stop defending their memory, because every time they do, they're met with denial. And they may even stop relying on their own emotions as valid sources of information. What does it do to a human being to live in a world where their perception is constantly invalidated? It creates an existential confusion and identity crisis. You no longer know what's real. And without reality, what is left of you? This is where existential philosophy intersects with psychology in a profound way. Soren Kierkegaard, the father of existentialism, once wrote, "The most common form of despair is not being who you are." When someone is gaslit, especially by someone they love and trust, they are slowly pushed away from their authentic self. They begin living a version of themselves that is acceptable to the gaslighter. They curate their emotions, censor their thoughts, rehearse their words, not to deceive but to survive. And in doing so, they become strangers to themselves. What begins as a psychological defense eventually becomes a spiritual exile. But here's the paradox. The person doing the gaslighting might genuinely believe they are being reasonable. They might even tell themselves they are being compassionate. I'm just trying to explain things clearly. I'm helping them see things objectively. They're too emotional, they need someone to ground them. These justifications are not always lies. They are often sincere. But sincerity does not equal truth. It is entirely possible for someone to believe they are helping while they are harming, to think they are being logical while they are being dismissive, to see themselves as a caretaker when they are, in fact, a controller. This is why the most dangerous gaslighters are not always narcissists or abusers. Sometimes they are parents, friends, partners, people who love us, but who do not know how to handle our truth. People who feel threatened by our anger, our sadness, our memories because those emotions challenge their version of events. And instead of expanding their awareness to include our reality, They shrink our reality to fit their comfort, not out of cruelty, but out of fear. And yet the result is the same, the slow suffocation of truth. So the question becomes, how do we wake up from this psychological illusion? How do we reclaim our truth when it has been dismissed, denied, or rewritten? The answer begins with radical self-trust. You must rebuild your inner world, reconnect with your memories, reclaim your emotional reality. This is not easy. It requires sitting in discomfort. It requires grieving the version of the relationship you thought you had. It requires accepting the painful truth that someone you love might be incapable of seeing you clearly, not because you are unclear, but because they are unwilling. Meditation can be a powerful tool here. In silence, the mind begins to reveal its unfiltered truth. When you sit alone, without the noise of other people's opinions, you begin to feel what is true. You remember what was said. You remember how it felt. You begin to notice the subtle shifts, the way your body tensed when you were told you were exaggerating, the way your chest tightened when your story was denied. The body remembers what the mind tries to forget. And in those memories, you will find your way back to yourself. But we must also speak about compassion, not for the gaslighter's behavior, but for their humanity. Many people who unconsciously gaslight do so because they themselves were gaslit growing up. They were told that their emotions were invalid, that their pain was imaginary, that their memories were wrong. And so, they learned to distrust emotions. They learned to rely only on logic, facts, and control. And now, when confronted with someone else's feelings, they react the only way they know how. By minimizing, denying, correcting. This does not excuse their behavior, but it helps us understand it. And understanding is the seed of transformation. If you are someone who has gaslighted others without realizing it, this is your invitation to wake up. Not to drown in guilt, but to rise in awareness. Ask yourself, why do I feel so uncomfortable when someone expresses pain that involves me? Why do I need to correct their version of the story? What am I afraid will happen if I simply say, I hear you? These are not small questions. They are spiritual confrontations. Because to truly be in relationship with another person, you must be willing to hold space for a truth that is not yours. You must be willing to be wrong. You must be willing to feel the sting of humility. As the philosopher Martin Buber once said, all real living is meeting. But we cannot truly meet another person if we are constantly editing their reality. We cannot connect if we are only listening to defend ourselves. We cannot love if we are too afraid to accept that we have caused harm. And so, if we want to break free from the cycle of unconscious gaslighting, we must become radically present. We must learn to sit with uncomfortable truths. We must learn to say, I don't remember it that way, but I believe that's how it felt to you. That sentence alone can save a relationship, because it honors both realities. It doesn't demand agreement, it invites understanding. If you are someone who has been gaslit, your healing begins with boundaries. You must learn to protect your perception. You must learn to say, this is my truth, and I will not debate it. Not to be rigid, but to be whole. Not to be aggressive, but to be sovereign. You must also seek spaces where your reality is honored. Whether in therapy, friendships, or solitude, you need a mirror that reflects your truth without distortion. Because healing from gaslighting is not just about clarity, it's about safety. You need to feel safe enough to trust yourself again. But the deepest healing comes from reclaiming your voice, from telling your story, from refusing to silence your truth just to keep someone else comfortable. Because every time you minimize your experience to avoid conflict, you gaslight yourself. Every time you doubt your own memory just because someone else insists you're wrong, you abandon yourself. And the path to wholeness is the path of self-loyalty. It is the choice to believe yourself even when others don't. It is the courage to say, I know what I felt. I know what I saw. I know what is true for me. And now we arrive at the final, perhaps most difficult truth. Gaslighting is not just a psychological problem. It is a spiritual one. It is a war over the nature of truth. It is a battle between consciousness and illusion. And in that battle, the greatest weapon is awareness. When we become aware of our own distortions, we begin to dissolve them. When we become aware of others' distortions, we stop internalizing them. And when we choose truth over and over again, even when it's uncomfortable, we reclaim our power. So ask yourself now, whose voice lives in your head when you doubt yourself? Whose version of the story are you still carrying? And what would it mean to finally let it go, not to forget, but to stop letting it define your reality? What would it mean to return to yourself, fully and unapologetically? To believe your own story, even if no one else does. To live in your truth, even if it makes others uncomfortable. This is your invitation not just to survive gaslighting, but to transcend it. To become so rooted in your own awareness that no one can rewrite your reality. To become so clear in your emotional truth that no one can make you feel crazy for feeling. To become so committed to presence that you no longer need to distort anyone else's experience just to feel safe in your own skin. And if we all did this, if we all chose awareness over avoidance, humility over ego, truth over protection, what kind of world would we create? A world where people truly see each other. A world where disagreements don't become distortions. A world where we can say, I don't agree, but I respect your truth. That is the world we must build. And it starts with one decision: to stop gaslighting ourselves. Because the moment we stop betraying our own truth is the moment we begin to heal. And healing in the end is not about being right. It's about being free. Free from illusion. Free from manipulation. Free from the need to control what others think or feel. It is the return to reality. The return to self. The return to truth. And that, more than anything, is what we came here to find.